My name is Michael Waddington. I'm an attorney, best-selling author, and performance coach.
And I am Victor Gonzalez, Galeano, entrepreneur, former banker, and leadership coach. We love coaching and helping people awaken their gifts within. Join us every week on the first, third Wednesday of every month as we bring to you knowledge, findings, and research that will help you propel your coaching practice to levels you have never seen before. Now, who's our guest today? Koren Marinberg. It's a financial advisor, and he's with us today. I'm excited about it because he's going to tell us what we should and should not do when building our own practice, especially for most of us that decide to be solopreneurs that could potentially believe in our career in corporate America to build on our practice. So we're happy to have you, Koren. Hey, get comfortable. Let's have a good conversation, man.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So first question. Supposed to ask the first question, Michael, right?
You're up first,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm up first. All right, good. Hey, this is cool. This is how it goes. All right. So, I have 1,000 questions, but here's the scenario. Most of the people that are listening to our podcast are coaches who are actually still in training, getting their certification to practice as a coach, or have made the decision to listen to their calling and making a greater impact in the people that they work with. My first question is, I already gave you the scenario, right? You know the drill. So solopreneurs, they're great at what they do, but they don't know how to build on their own practice. What are some of the things that they need to take into consideration as they live their companies, their 401k, their pensions, their salary, to go into this journey of solopreneurship as they build their coaching practice? What are some of the things that they need to take into consideration?
Absolutely. So, it's really important that when you leave a, salaried job, a 9-to-5 job, a W-2, 1099, whatever you want to call your career prior, and you're now transitioning to a career that is your own time constraint. You're your own boss, your own career, your own schedule, and you don't necessarily have a paycheck every, Friday of every other week, biweekly. And now you have to, create your own salary essentially. So it's important to make sure that as you're leaving your previous career, the first thing is that you actually have to make sure you're in the right mental status, you're in the right physical status, and you're in the right financial status, making sure that you as a person is full in well-being to make sure that this transition is the best for you. And so, we want to take a look at, especially on the financial side, is do you have the right savings built up? Are you comfortable leaving your salaried position and not making, those paychecks or that salary for 3 to 6 months, 9 months, a whole year, 18 months, 2 years even, when you have to now fight and build up your business and your career? So making sure that, at the basis of it, you have your emergency funds built up, 3 to 6 months worth, making sure that you're covered to pay all of your emergency and expenses. You have a flat tire, you have to pay for groceries, rent, bills, things like that, to make sure that you can actually sustain and keep yourself going. And making sure that you have a conversation, if you have a partner, a spouse, any other financial family member who might be helping you, that they're along with the conversation as well, and they understand the risks and moves that you're going to take. But then from there, once you have all that situated and now you're in your new career, making sure, just like you were before in a salaried position, that you have your budget in order, understanding the revenue or income that you're bringing in on a monthly basis, and understanding the expenses that you have with your new business. If there's subscriptions, fees, events you have to go to, that those are all in order and you're not overspending in areas that you shouldn't be. Make sure that you can keep up with the revenue and income that you're bringing in to stay consistent in your new career.
So do you recommend having, like a basic, this seems like a basic question, but I know a lot of people don't do it, and I'm guilty of doing this sometimes, like sitting down and writing down like a line by line business checklist of expenses, and then having that personal checklist, and really just getting it all on paper so you can see what we're looking at?
Yeah, I think finances, and especially, financial freedom and, the idea of finances in general is scary and stressful for a lot of individuals. They get really anxious when they start talking about their finances or thinking about their financial situation. But a lot of people, and I just read a statistic, 39% of individuals have an emergency fund, which means that everyone else doesn't have an emergency fund. And then ask your neighbor or even ask yourself, do you have a budget in place personally and for your business side of it? Because the budget in its most holistic and basic approach is really talking about the money you're bringing in on a monthly basis and the expenses that you're spending. Are you able to carry over to the next month, making sure that maybe at the end of 3 to 6 months, you're not going into credit card debt, you're not stacking up on loans, and you're not worrying about where your next paycheck's going to come from. So yeah, it's really good to separate your personal budget from your business budget, because you personally is much different than your business and career. Sometimes some of them blend, maybe, gas or, some bills or things like that. And maybe you can split them between the two, but it's good to have your personal budget and business budget to make sure that you can account for both and understand the income and expenses with both of them as well.
So Victor, I'm going to jump in with another question, because this is something that I have to deal with. And I think a lot of our coach listeners do as well. Let's say, what do you do if your budget, maybe 1 month is $20,000, and then the next month it could be $10,000, the next month it could be $40,000. What do you recommend? Like putting yourself on a salary or taking draws, or what would you do in a situation like that?
It's really situational and depends on the person. I can't give a right answer for that, because every person, every business varies and their financial situation varies. So maybe for some people, it's a good idea to take a paycheck and working along with your financial advisor and your CPA and your business experts to understand the situation that you have. Maybe for others, taking a draw is a much better situation for you in the long run. But all in all, when you have variations in your income and you have variations in your expenses, I think a good idea to do is take an average of 3 months of income, 3 months of expenses, take an average of 6 months of income and expenses. That way you can see on a consistent basis what each month might bring. Or if you've already been in business for a year and you know the strong months and the weak months, if a lot of your clients go on vacation during the summer, then those might be a little bit slower months. But right after that, business picks back up. Then you can see the flows through there. I like to almost compare it to an oil change, right? Oil change you get on your car every 3 to 6 months. It costs $100, but you have to budget it as $30 a month every 3 months. Because technically, even though you spend $100 in 1 month itself, you've kind of saved $30 or spent $30 in each of those 3 months. So same exact thing with your income and expenses, breaking it up on a monthly basis to see what it is every single month, averaging out.
Okay.
Well, so, definitely there are going to be a lot of variabilities, depending on circumstances for every individual. And definitely it's not going to be a 40,000, 20,000, 10,000 variability in income when you first start as a coach. Because if that's the case with you, Michael, we need to talk more. So having said that, what I think the scenario that happens is one where there is no income. The income is the budget that we might have made as we maybe took a draw, like you were saying, Koren, out of our savings out of our 401k, out of our pension plan, or sometimes from a line of credit, a credit card, family and friends that may be helping us to build that business, that dream. So I heard you say, a buffer, and I heard you say a budget to maintain the income and expenses. Um, but so undoubtedly, different things are gonna need to take place depending on where that money may be coming from. So, any recommendation if it was coming from a 401k, a best way that one can do it, or any recommendation if it was from a line of credit, what would be the benefits? And the one, well, I'm asking too many questions. So let's just stay there and then I'll have a follow up.
I think when you're switching over into a new career from a consistent paycheck into now you're not going to get a paycheck for 6 months, a year, however long it might be, and you're fighting to build your business. If you're going to completely, put in your 2 weeks at your previous job and say, I'm doing this, then that's what you're going to do. But make sure you have enough savings built up, because the last thing you want to do is start tapping into, any retirement accounts such as 401ks or pensions, or opening up lines of credit or using credit cards that might have much higher APRs now that you might have to pay a lot of interest on. Even tapping into home equity lines or things like that are not in the best interest when you're first starting out, when you have or would hopefully have access to emergency funds that you've saved. The best bet when you're switching careers, or a good idea to have, is slowly putting in a 6-month notice with your previous position and saying, hey, I'm going to start working part-time, and slowly build up your new practice month over month, working part-time there, full-time, staying up till 3 a.m, building that business while you're slowly transitioning out of your new one, to have an endless seam there. But really making sure that emergency funds are the main one that you want to have there to utilize. You don't really want to start building up interest or tapping into your credit utilization when you don't have to, or even tapping into retirement accounts, especially if you're underneath that 59 and a half age, with different type of qualified accounts, making sure you don't have any tax penalties there on that side of it.
So that's great in a perfect scenario. I tell my boss, hey, listen, by the way, I'm only going to work part-time. If that works for you, fine. But if it doesn't, hey, c'est la vie. But that's not necessarily the case all the time. And yes, I want to take 6 months before I move on. Sometimes somebody makes a decision for you. So you have to make a quick decision as to what is it that you want to do when you grow up, and you decide that you always wanted to do this. You always wanted to be a coach. So you decide to be a coach. So you're just thrown, into the abyss, and you got to figure out that you got wings and you need to quickly learn how to fly. Right? So if I had to take money out of the 401k, is that a better way that I could minimize penalties? If I needed to take money out of my pension or a line of credit, what will be the best scenario under that worst scenario?
He doesn't like that question, and neither do I. And I'll tell you why. As an investment guy, he's like cringing with that question about tapping into the 401k.
I think that's the last thing you want to tap into, because on top of a 10% penalty, you have all the taxes on top of it. So you're getting hit tapping into 401ks and pensions and anything like that if you're not at the 59 and a half age yet.
Well, so I guess
credit cards or a line of credit might be.
If you're willing to do that, right?
That's when you sit down and have a conversation with a financial advisor to really create a game plan for your new situation, to figure out what's the best strategy to go about, to sit down with your CPA and have a conversation with them to sit down with your family members and say, this is the decision I'm planning on making and the move I'm planning on making, and figuring out, hey, maybe I need to start doing this from midnight till 5 a.m. and I need to stay up late and grind it out. And I need to go work at, McDonald's to pay, for some bills, bringing it in part-time, finding a means to create some income without, those should be last resorts.
You bring up something that's very important. And it's the fact that a lot of times we may think that we need to do it solo. And the reality is that doing it solo can be the worst decision that one can make. You mentioned the accountant, the financial advisor, and a friend that can potentially bring in an opportunity to go somewhere else and work part-time. So that's definitely key for listeners to tap into their network and their circle of influence to figure out what's the best way. Mike, I'll give it to you because.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's one of the challenges that we're running into with some of the folks that we knew that were wanting to be coaches is they want the lifestyle they have now, but they want a whole new career and they want it instantly. And think back, I mean, I'm thinking back 22 years ago when I was first starting out as a lawyer. I mean, we would have months like where we would make no money. My wife and I were partners, and some months we would make money, and you get the bill, the electricity might get cut off type of thing because you have to prioritize your bills. Like you got to suck it up and be willing to grind it out if you want to have that chance of launching a new career, because the beginning is often tough, and that's why I think a lot of people, they don't really understand what it takes to build a business. And so speaking of that, like if you're not going to tap into the 401k, are there other options out there to maybe get some financing? Let's say you're going to work at McDonald's or work at Best Buy in the evenings, but are there other low interest rate loans that small businesses can get aside from, draining your retirement?
That question is a great one to ask your business banker and your business loan professional, because they know what's available out there when it comes to low interest loans for you to be able to utilize. I hate saying build up and utilize your credit cards, but those are there as a backup and a just in case if you need to utilize them to have that wiggle room on your credit limits, making sure that you stay within your credit utilization underneath that 35 to 50% to make sure it doesn't affect your credit score and doesn't affect any other loans or buying a house or buying a car that you might do in the future. But having those as a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of buffer to help you out there. Knowing that some of your credit cards have 25% annual interest rate on them that will exponentially grow those loans and balances that you have, but making sure that you stay in a consistent range there. Maybe having some credit cards that when you first open them, sometimes some of the offers are 0% APR for the first 6 months, first year. Maybe those are a little bit more of your buffer and wiggle room there to help you out. But talking with your business banker, your business loan professional, to really figure out, hey, can I get a personal loan or a business loan, an SBA through my bank, my local bank or credit union, to be able to help with, a lower interest rate. And especially with rising interest rates right now, that's a really good question to have a game plan behind, because you don't want to get caught in a really high interest rate environment where it's, similar to a credit card where it'll just continue to build up that loan balance.
Okay. So at what point in time does a business owner talk to a wealth advisor? Do you wait until you're wealthy and you have millions of dollars coming in every month, or do you start as soon as you can? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think someone should sit down and have a conversation with a wealth advisor when they're 18 years old, just out of college, in the middle of college. If your parents have a wealth advisor, they should bring you into the conversation as a young child to have that sense of financial literacy, to understand how financial freedom works. a lot of people think when they hear wealth advisor that they need to be wealthy. But in order to become wealthy, you need to start from zero and build that up. So why wait until you have millions of dollars to invest to actually have that game plan? There's a lot of financial advisors out there who have minimums, who say, I only work with clients who have $250,000 of investable assets, have $1 million of assets that we can invest and do this. Over here at One South Florida, we don't have any minimums. So we'll have a conversation with anyone to really be that resource for them, to be that educational financial partner for them, and help them say, hey, you just received your first paycheck out of college if you're working in that salaried position. How do we properly utilize your paycheck so you don't buy that shiny new 2023 car? So you don't go spend, crazy dinners in Las Olas and Miami. So you can actually buy that house in 2 years, so you can have an investment properties, so you can retire at age 40 instead of age 65 or 70. So starting young, and even if you're not young, starting and building a financial plan before you even need it is the best case scenario, to really have that conversation and say, this is what I'm thinking of doing. How can I properly do this? So if you want to switch over into a career, a coaching career, you need to have that conversation 6 months, a year, 5 years in advance, saying, hey, this thought is in the back of my mind. I want to do this. Is this possible in this time frame to do this? And the financial advisor will say, yeah, we can make that work. We can help you with the right strategies. Or we can say, hey, expectations aren't meeting reality. Maybe you can't do it in 5 years, maybe 7 years or 10 years.
Okay.
Where were you when I needed you the most, man?
Yeah. I know, hindsight, man. So like my son is a law student right now. He's 22 years old, and he, served in the Army. So he's a little bit of savings built up. I mean, so even someone who's like a law student could come see you, and you could help at least get what money he has on track and start advising him.
Absolutely. I'm 24 years old. I'm 2 years out of school, went to UCF, and everyone who went to school, a majority of us have student loans. Mm-hmm. Right now, some of us don't have to pay student loans back, and those are being forgiven. But think about that dentist who has $150,000 of student loans, or that doctor or that lawyer who has a lot of student loans built up. We have to now think about, hey, you're going to get out into the real world and have your career and your salary. How are we going to efficiently pay those student loans back? Or you have a lot of savings built up. Let's find more ways to efficiently maximize the efficiency of your dollar, so it's not sitting in the bank and you're paying interest to the bank while they're going out and using your money. How do we really maximize on the efficiency so that when you're ready to go and you have that great law job at a new career or a new firm, you're ready to go, you have your financial plan built out for you.
So I know we're crunching on time as we finish up. Here's what I have, and I want to make sure that if there's anything else to add, that we do it. So there are really three buckets to take money from when I'm decided to go solopreneur and building my coaching practice. I either tap into my discretionary income that may be sitting in a savings account of 0.0000001% interest.
That sounds right.
Unless you've done some homework and some investments, and so it could be an addition. So we have to make a decision that if we tap into that savings, then we're going to lose that income, the interest rate, because we are withdrawing the money. Or if we're going to tap into our 401ks and pension plans and all of alike, then we have to be conscious of the penalties that we will have to pay. It's not if we want to, if we feel like it. No, we will pay because we're tapping into that money, especially if we're tapping into it before we're 59 and a half, right? And the other bucket will be the lending bucket. And if we decide to go that route, whether we're going to lend from a credit card, from a loan, a line of credit, families and friends and whatnot, we have to consider how much of an interest rate is it that we're going to have to pay. So those three buckets, it's what I see within our conversation. Am I forgetting anything? Anything
No,
else you
I
add?
think those are the three ones that are the conversation, and need to have a good financial game plan behind them to figure out what's the best situational use of them and the best strategy for each one of those going forward.
Right, which leads me to the next point that I have is that we don't have to do it solo. Nobody does. But we live in a society where we're supposed to be superheroes. And we can be superheroes celebrating with our super friends and super circle of influence that can help us. So we're talking about the accountant, the lawyer, the banker, the wealth advisor, and the financial advisor. And that's where you come in. And I wanted to make sure that I say thank you for taking the time to share your insight with us. How do we find you? How do they get a hold of you? How does Michael's son, 20, just starting school, wanting to get that literacy into what a wealth advisor looks like, how to build wealth? How do they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate your time today, and I'm excited to be a guest on this. But best way to reach me is a lot of different means of communication. One, they can find me on LinkedIn. Two, they can find me on Facebook. I have a business Facebook page as well. So it's Koren Marinberg Financial Advisor. Or feel free to contact me via email or text message, or even phone call as well. So my number is 305-306-8650. Always available for a phone call or a text message. We can schedule a time to talk. And my email is my first initial last name. So K Marinberg at onesouthfloridawa.com. So K Marinberg at onesouthfloridawa.com. WA as in wealth advisor. We have all complimentary meetings, no planning fees. So really sitting down, our first conversation is just a dialogue to find out what's the best conversation to have with you. What are you looking to accomplish? And can we even help you at the end of the day to make sure we can get you on the right financial plan and track?
All right, cool. We're going to put all your contact information in the box below in the description so people can click on a link and go right there. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Koren, thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.